Police shooting sparks a murder spree and a new investigation in Silent Witness in half an hour. But first on BBC One, Panorama.
He's the world leader accused of personally approving murder on the streets of London.
The conclusion that the Russian state was probably involved in the murder of Mr. Litvinenko is deeply disturbing.
But is the president implicated in an assassination also responsible for theft on an extraordinary scale?
He has fleets of things that almost no billionaire in the West would have.
Vladimir Putin has been accused of looting his own country.
Today, Putin behaves like a czar.
Tonight, we investigate the truth about President Putin's riches.
Why would it be kept secret?
Because it belongs personally to Putin, not to the state.
And for the first time, the Americans say what they really think about the Russian president.
Is Vladimir Putin corrupt?
In our view, yes.
There is no other world leader like Vladimir Putin. Action man. Man of the people.
Да здравствует Россия!
And ruler of Russia.
Владимир Путин приветствует экипаж морского тральщика.
From Ukraine to Syria, Vladimir Putin's influence is being felt. He's faced countless accusations of corruption, but still has record approval ratings in Russia.
What do you think of Vladimir Putin?
Отличный человек.
Но мне кажется, он для России делает очень многое.
Долгих лет ему жизни, здоровья.
But should the Russian people trust Vladimir Putin? President Putin's official income is around $100,000 a year, and yet he lives like the super-rich. He has a collection of expensive watches. Even his designer tracksuit costs $3,000.
He has a level of living that is far in excess of anything anyone in the West would have, even the very richest. It's that kind of level that we see from Saudi princes.
So how rich is Vladimir Putin? Well, it may be one of Russia's best-kept secrets, but one journalist came up with a figure. Stanislav Belkovsky claimed Putin had secret shareholdings in some of Russia's biggest companies. I met him in Moscow.
I've got this information from my confidential sources.
What figure did you come up with for Vladimir Putin's wealth?
$40 billion in assets, not in cash, of course. I'm still sure Putin is the richest man in Europe, one of the richest men in the world.
Putin himself dismissed the $40 billion claim.
Просто чушь. Все выговорили из носа. И размазывали по своим бумажкам.
But a secret CIA report agreed with Belkovsky's figure. In their view, Putin was worth around $40 billion.
Did you tell the CIA the details of your 40 billion figure?
Oh, no. I think CIA and FBI have got this information separately, without my assistance.
Russia's role in the Ukrainian conflict has led to closer scrutiny of Putin's finances. Many of his inner circle have faced financial sanctions from the Americans and the European Union. Now, the US won't publicly confirm the 40 billion figure, but they have told Panorama what they think about Putin's wealth.
I'm not in a position to give you figures, but what I can say is that he supposedly draws a state salary of something like $110,000 a year. That is not an accurate statement of the man's wealth. And he has long-time training and practices in terms of how to mask his actual wealth.
Is Vladimir Putin corrupt?
In our view, yes.
How long has the United States known that Vladimir Putin was, in your words, a corrupt figure?
I think for many, many years.
Russia dismisses this sort of talk as nonsense. But the fact that the Americans are finally labeling Putin as corrupt shows how bad relations have become. So what's the truth about Putin's money? Has Russia's president been making billions on the side? And if he has, where's it all hidden? I've come to Estonia to meet a man who says he knows about some of Putin's cash. He fled Russia after falling out with Kremlin insiders. Our contact helped Putin collect money from the super rich. They all thought it was to pay for healthcare. But Sergei Kolesnikov says some of the donated cash was diverted and ultimately used to help build a $1 billion palace for Putin.
Regrettably, these funds, which were supposed to be invested in decent investment projects, to a significant extent, ended up being spent on a palace on the Black Sea coast.
And here it is. President Putin says the palace is nothing to do with him. But we've seen documents linking Vladimir Putin to the palace at the time it was built. They show a secret money trail, and it's claimed Putin was at the heart of it. These are documents from one of the offshore companies that diverted millions of dollars to the palace. And according to Kolesnikov, the owner of this company was Putin himself. The offshore company was overseen by Kolesnikov and his business partner, a Kremlin insider called Nikolai Shamalov.
Shamalov said that he was taking 96 shares, 96%, keeping 2 for himself, and he would be giving 94 to Putin. And there's more evidence. Kolesnikov and Shamalov were recorded apparently discussing $440 million of investments belonging to Putin. They refer to Putin using a nickname, Mikhail Ivanovich.
Деньги Михаила Ивановича 439 968. Вот это деньги Михаила Ивановича.
Shamalov is still a trusted Kremlin insider. And in that recording, he was discussing Putin's secret fortune. Finding evidence like that about Putin is not easy. He used to run Russia's intelligence service. He knows how to hide secrets. Few from his inner circle ever talk, but Panorama has tracked down one who will. I've come to Nice in the south of France to meet him. So I'm at the hotel and we're about to be picked up and taken to the interview location. But the truth is, we have no idea where we're going. We certainly don't have anything like an address. And the reason is probably because the man that we're on our way to interview is on the run. He was one of Russia's richest and most important men. But he fled his homeland and says he can't go back.
Merci.
His driver has brought me to a secret location.
Hi. Hey, how are you? Hi.
This is Sergei Pugachev. He says he helped Putin become president. They were friends. Their children played together.
I had a very close relationship with Putin. Putin consulted me. Putin confided in me.
Pugachev took Putin to see one of the presidential palaces.
Of course, this was an absolutely new world, new life. And of course, he was astonished by it.
In that first term as president, what was Putin's attitude to money?
I think that Putin was preoccupied with the issue of wealth from the start. I think that for Putin, this was an important factor. We talked about it. He didn't hide it. He knew he wanted to leave office as a wealthy person.
Vladimir Putin has come a long way. He wasn't born rich, and to understand him, you need to go to his home city, St. Petersburg. This is where he grew up, there on the 5th floor. Putin's family had one room in a shared apartment, no hot water, and a shared kitchen in the corridor. Vladimir Putin grew up in poverty. But it was in St. Petersburg that Vladimir Putin first tasted power. Back in the 90s, not long out of the KGB, Putin became a deputy mayor. On his watch, millions of dollars disappeared from public funds to a company called 20th Trust. The detective who investigated says Putin was one of those who benefited. Hey, Andrei. He says Putin ended up with a property in Torrevieja in Spain.
If 20th Trust is building a villa for Putin in Torrevieja, is this Putin personally receiving the money or not? In my opinion, the answer is straightforward.
But the criminal case was closed after Putin became president. Zhukov says he was forced into retirement. The Kremlin has denied the claims, but Spanish investigators reveal the details of wiretapped phone conversations between Russians who've been linked to organized crime. They can be heard discussing Putin's property in Spain. One of the gangsters says Putin's house is in Torrevieja, the same Spanish town Zhukov had identified. It looks like Zhukov was right. Putin got a house in Spain. So, in St. Petersburg, Putin learned how to profit from power. He also built a loyal team. After he moved to the Kremlin, they came with him. The men closest to Putin have been with him for years. They were with him here in St. Petersburg, and they've stayed with him ever since. And this is the group that he trusts and that he rewards. And this is the group that runs Russia. Putin's lawyer at the town hall became president and then prime minister of Russia. His former deputy also served as prime minister. The chief of staff at the town hall now runs Russia's anti-drugs agency. His former assistant now runs the biggest oil company in the world. And his former economist now runs the biggest gas company in the world. All of them worked with Putin in this building.
They rose up together, they went with him to Moscow, and they have been a very stable elite. This whole group who grabbed the commanding heights of the Russian economy, they all work together in a very small office, in fact, in St. Petersburg.
And as president, Putin was at the center of this new elite. he had power and access to the super-rich. You can see how Putin used this by looking at his relationship with Britain's most